Crazy. And the irony is that 100 years ago, we knew better. This is a cookbook for diabetics from 1917. You can read it online if you like. It's called Diabetic Cookery, and you can Google for it, and you can read it. But I'm going to show you the most interesting pages, which is the pages telling diabetics what to eat and what not to eat. And let's see about what not to eat on the right. Number 1 is sugar. Number 2 is starchy foods, such as bread and pasta and rice. Actually, the heading of this page is foods strictly forbidden, which is now the base of the food pyramid. Crazy, right? Back then, diabetics were supposed to eat fat, such as butter and olive oil, meat, fish, eggs, which is about the same advice that I give to my patients today, getting excellent results for the people who can eat like that. So I'd like to show you a few studies on this. There are a few. I mean, Eric Westman did one of them, who's here today. I don't have time for that, but you can find them on my blog, dietdoctor.com. What I'm going to show you is that perhaps you don't even have to read a lot of studies. You could just prove this for yourself if you have a blood sugar meter. This is a meal I ate recently. It's a big piece of meat fried in butter. It's vegetables fried in butter, and it's homemade béarnaise sauce, which is melted butter and egg yolks. Okay, so it's a dietitian's nightmare. It's all saturated fat there, almost no carbohydrates, just a few grams from the vegetables. So what happens to my glucose if I eat this? Well, I tested it, and basically nothing happened. You know, really boring experiment. But perhaps we shouldn't be surprised, because if you don't eat any carbohydrates, you don't get any sugar going into your blood, and your blood sugar stays the same. Now, for a contrast to this, I went to the International Congress of Obesity, which is a giant conference for obesity researchers and the doctors. Once every year, they go to one place in the world to discuss the latest when it comes to obesity research. And in 2010, they went to Sweden. So I went there, and I was served the worst lunch I've eaten in years. This is some of it. And if you don't believe me, you can read on the sign, International Congress of Obesity 2010, Stockholm, today's lunch. And this is the entire package. You know, this is sugar in the chocolate bar, sugar in the fruit in a more natural form, sugar in the yogurt, lots of added sugar in it, and it's all starch in the sandwich. Of course, some people might believe that there is some tasty low-carb stuff in it, but you'd be disappointed. It wasn't the case. It's like a homeopathic dose of tuna somewhere, hard to find. You have to go looking for it. Anyway, to compare it to this meal, something else happened. And I was a bit shocked, actually, because in an hour, the blood sugar went up to 180, 179. And then, as you can see, it drops. And we've heard about this before at this cruise. You get hypoglycemia sometimes, and you get hungry, and you want to eat more. So, you'd think that if you're a diabetic, you should get this green line advice, right? To eat real low-carb food. But that's usually not the case. This is a brochure for diabetics in Sweden. It's called Food for Diabetics. And we can discuss the merits of a huge bowl of fruit. Perhaps it's not optimal for diabetics. But inside, it gets worse. It says that food that raises the blood sugar slowly is good, such as fruit and rice and pasta and potatoes and bread. Well, who gives out this advice that raise the blood sugar? It even says so, you know. And of course, it's a pharmaceutical company, as usual. And what do they sell? They sell insulin, yes. They sell drugs for lowering the blood sugar. So if people follow this advice, they will raise their blood sugar, they will need more medication, and the pharmaceutical companies is going to be able to print a lot of these brochures, for the money, for the profits. So this is a huge problem, I think. We really have to change it. But how? Because there's a lot of resistance to this, lots of economic interests that kind of slow down change. So I think change will have to come from the bottom, right? From the grassroots. Viral change using media. And the best way perhaps to start this is via the internet and blogs. It's a great way to get information out there. So, and then we're going to end up in the papers, on the TV, of course. Just a few words about the message that I think can make this happen. I think we should really focus on the health aspects and not only on the weight. I think it's crucial that we focus on real food, not special processed low-carb products, right? Because this is a huge problem, I think, in Sweden and maybe even more so in America. It's called Eenfeldt pasta. And this is of course not the only problem, but it's a good example of it. They claim that this pasta made from wheat, all carbs, is just going to pass through your system and nothing is going to be absorbed. Is it true? Well, it wasn't true for me when I tested it. It wasn't true for Jimmy Moore when he tested it. And when some real researchers tested it and compared it to regular pasta for a group of volunteers, they couldn't find a difference. So I'd say this isn't carb facts, it's carb fiction. It's a low-carb fairy tale. And there are lots of these out there, such as bread made from wheat, and even Atkins cookies made from wheat flour and sugar alcohols and lots of other stuff like sweeteners and God knows what. I don't think that products like these are the solution. I think they are a big part of the problem. Keeping people from losing weight and keeping others from even taking low carbs seriously. So I think we absolutely have to focus on real food. And thank you. Also, I think it's helpful that this is good for people like us, improving our health and weight, compared to the low-fat advice that today perhaps most benefits food companies, pharmaceutical companies, and so on. And finally, that this is based on new science proving that it works, compared to the old low-fat advice that didn't work in studies. Okay, so I think using that, I don't think we need to fear this resistance to change, because, like Victor Hugo said, all the forces in the world are not so powerful as an idea whose time has come. And the time has come. Finally, this is Kenneth Jacobson. Kenneth, he got type 2 diabetes early in life, in his 40s, and he gained a lot of weight. He weighed over 250 pounds. He got heart disease. He got heart infarct after heart infarct until he had 7 of them. Needed coronary bypass surgery, new vessels to his heart. Needed 12 drugs every day just to control his risk factors. Well, the future was looking kind of dark until one day in 2009 when he went to the store to get food. And he met someone there who he had not talked to before. By the dairy counter, he started to talk to an unknown man about butter for some reason. And this man told Kenneth that he and his wife had been eating LCHF for a while and lost a lot of weight, felt great, and his wife had gotten rid of her diabetes. So Kenneth found this intriguing, of course. He got an address to the internet, went home to read the same night, and the very next day he started eating real food, except sugar and starch. Now, a little more than a year later, he doesn't weigh 250 pounds anymore. He's lost 70 pounds, down to 185, and he doesn't need 12 drugs a day. He's down to 1 drug. And when he went to the doctor recently to get a checkup, he had a perfect blood pressure without medication. He had a good cholesterol profile, and his blood sugar was normal, healthy, without medication, despite his diabetes diagnosis. So, perfect risk factors, feels a lot better, and has the energy to go for long trips on his motorbike again. Now, consider how this happened. It's one conversation with an unknown man. So this is the kind of change that you can inspire. And I think this is important because across the world, 100 million people or more could revolutionize their health by eating real food. The good news is that soon they will do that. I believe it because the evidence is here now. The paradigm shift is happening, and people like us can make it happen. So we can change the world. Thank you.
Two years ago, I released this book, The Mouthtrap, The Butt Stops Here. And since then, I've been a year on a low-carb diet, and I've changed the book. I have a new edition. I don't have to tell you there's a problem with what we've been eating. It's everywhere. You can see the obesity. You hear all the time of people being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, chronic this and chronic that. And I've done a lot of research. I've attended lectures. For a year, I've just been studying this. The first book told you how to mind whatever diet you chose. And this book tells you how to mind a low-carb diet. And it helps you go through a whole year of changing your life. It'll help you mind the lifestyle. There's more and more evidence that carbohydrates are the culprit here. And mostly it's about sugar. We don't want to give up sugar, but I can make it so easy for you. And the Mouthtrap, The Butt Stops Here, the low-carb version is going to help you do that. I hope my book can help a younger generation because you don't need to wait till you're my age to change your life. And I feel cheated that I didn't know the truth, and now I know the truth, and it's in my book. When you read the book, you'll find out that I should weigh 288 pounds right now. But I've been on a low-carb diet for a year and 2 months, and I weigh 135. But if I followed calories in, calories out, I would weigh 288. One of the most exciting things for me is this book is available as a book. So you can get it as an e-book, an audio book, or a real book.